What's up and welcome to the animated series where we showcase the dopest talent and untold stories behind the animation industry. I'm your hostess with the mostest, Alyssa Rosa, and today I have creator, Annie and Emmy nominated writer and voice actor, Jeff Trammell. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
You're an incredibly talented writer. You've worked on shows like Craig of the Creek, Amphibia, Infinity Train, and you're currently working with Marvel. What was the specific scene and or episode on 30 Rock that really sparked your desire to write for television?
That's a really good question. I think back to the first episode I saw was the one with Steve Martin. He's an agoraphobe who stays in this enclosed environment, but in actuality, he's like a criminal. And he sneaks away and then he gets tackled. And I remember him saying, "I miscounted the men, Liz." And it's just like a line that stays in my head and I quote it all the time. And finding out that Donald Glover was a writer and I knew his work from Derek Comedy. So seeing someone who had gone from YouTube to writing for television was like, oh, this is a avenue that's possible. So that was basically my first inkling of oh, people write for television, just kind of normal people, and this is the thing I want to do, so let's figure out how and get started.
Your first instinct was just to be a writer. Was there ever an inkling to transfer over into voice acting, directing, show running?
I love voice acting ever since I was a kid, so I think there was always a part of me that wanted to do that. If I'm being honest, I was like, well, I'm not an actor, and I'm not good at acting. So maybe writing is a thing that I can teach myself and improve upon, and maybe one day the one can lead into the other one, which is luckily what happened for me. But no, I never thought I could be a voice actor or a showrunner or anything.
So what was that change in your mind then?
I think for myself, especially early on, there's a lot of oh, I don't think I can do this thing, or I'm not ready, or even when I started writing and I was in the Nick writing program, it was oh, they've made a mistake. They have all these other talented writers, and I'm just some guy who taught himself how to do this thing. And there's always that self-doubt inside. And even when I got on Craig, it was, oh, am I not good enough? Am I not what they need for a staff writer? Am I bringing to the table what I think they need? And when I got promoted, it's, oh, they're making a mistake. They need to find a good head writer. I don't know what I'm doing.
Right.
But it's always that doubt of first entering that role. And then once you get into it and you get acclimated, you're like, no, I know what I'm doing. I know how to handle this. And for voice acting and show running, it was a lot of the same, where I felt out of my depth at the beginning, but then once I entered it, it was okay, this is new, but it's fun, it's exciting, I want to get better at it, I want to learn, and just kind of apply myself to do those things.
I feel like a lot of us feel imposter syndrome with what we can and can't do. So it's very inspiring to hear that although you still have those moments, it's also a reassurance that yeah, maybe I can do this thing. So for you as a kid growing up in Detroit, did you ever draw inspiration when writing for Craig from your actual childhood?
I mean, for a show you're doing in your basement, you have such great research. When I met Matt and Ben, who were the creators, they were developing Craig already. So the episode that I wrote ended up being the third episode of the show. A lot of that was given the opportunity to flesh out Craig's family life.
Yeah.
So his dad is heavily inspired by my dad and Tiffany Ford's dad. Dwayne is a jokester, and there's a gag in there where Craig doesn't know what his dad does for a living, which is true, because my dad would always say oh yeah, this is my job that I tell people I do, but in actuality, I'm a secret agent, but don't tell anybody. And I didn't believe him, and I still don't, but I still don't know what he does, so maybe he is a secret agent. But also, Craig's grandfather, Earl, is named after a guy that I worked with at the airport after I graduated high school. So when we started doing Craig and we had the opportunity to name his granddad, I named him after Earl.
That's awesome. That's very sweet. So with Craig specifically, did you find any challenges with balancing the humor, the heart, and the adventure?
Craig is a very special show in that, like you just mentioned, there's so many different parts of it, and there's a lot of times where we want to lean into this grandiose adventure. When we were doing the Capture the Flag War and the other side and building all that stuff, it can become this huge sweeping epic. But we also want to make sure that there's moments for really sweet stuff, like Craig and his family or Kelsey and Stax exploring their relationship. So there were definitely moments where I think we had a lot of ideas on our plate and we had to try to figure out a way to space them out so it's not just there's this huge Game of Thrones-esque show, not counting the last season, where it has to tell this huge sweeping story, but also, we still have time for like one-off slice of life things and making sure that those never feel like an afterthought. I think with our team and just all the incredible people that worked on it, even when we were doing like the big sweeping epics, they still had the heart and the comedy. And when we were doing the comedy, they still had the heart and the adventure. So there was always a nice balance of it, which I think is cool.
So we briefly spoke about your voice acting, but you voice Cannonball. Can you please share with us what is your favorite part about bringing him to life?
Well, one, he's dope, as everyone knows. That's his titular catchphrase. Cannonball's a fun character because the first episode of Craig I wrote, which featured the Junk Lord and the 10 Speeds for the first time. And they already had the design for Cannonball, but I named all the other 10 Speeds. I saw that design, I was like, oh, this would be like a cool kid to voice one day. I was not brave enough to be like, can I voice this kid? I just joined the show. But I thought it was cool. Eventually we needed Cannonball for an episode, and he didn't really have much of a personality. Our board artist, Dina Beck, and Angel Lorenzana boarded that episode, and I believe Dina was like, is it cool if we kind of like base Cannonball on you? And I was like, sure. And at the time, I was saying that Self was dope a lot, apparently. So they wrote that into the episode, and his catchphrase was, that's dope. I was like, okay, great. They're going to let me voice Cannonball now. Obviously, he's based on me now. They were like, let's cast someone to play Cannonball. So they reached out to some people. I believe Phil Lamar actually did it first, but something about the character just didn't feel right. So they were going to reach out to some more people. I'd like to say that they were like, actually, Jeff, you're who we need. He's based on you, and you're the heart and soul of Cannonball. But in actuality, they were like, we're running out of time. We need to record somebody. Can you do it? And I was like, yes, I will happily do this thing that I very much want to do. So I voiced Cannonball for the first time, which was super nerve-wracking. But it was really fun, and if I had never gotten to do it again, I would have been happy. But luckily, they had me back for Cannonball and Gibson and a giant lightning bug. And it led to me doing another show over at Cartoon Network called The Fungies.
Do you want to continue to lend your voice to other productions?
I feel like it's a part of my personality that I don't get to do a lot. I mean, it's one thing to write for other characters and find those voices, but to give life to someone like Cannonball or Gibson or anyone else that I got to voice, I think it really allows me to appreciate the voice actors even more. I know what they're going through, and it helps me write for them better too.
At Cartoon Network, I heard that you guys used to have Craig tournaments. You used to play Dragon Ball and Super Smash Bros. Is that correct?
That is correct. We played a lot of Smash Bros, a lot of Dragon Ball Fighters. When I say we, it was primarily like 3 people playing Dragon Ball
That's
Fighters.
That's a lot of people playing.
Yeah, I'm the best of 3. It's a great role.
Do you still to this day feel as if like you hold the crown?
Yes.
So if Shakira Pressley, for example, came up and tried to challenge you, would she
Yeah,
be able to win?
No, not at all. I think if Shakira Pressley, Deshaun Mahone, Jason Dwyer, any of those people walked into your basement right now, they would walk out having tasted defeat from yours truly.
Additionally, speaking of brawling, is it true that you were a professional wrestler at one point?
That is true, yes.
Has any of your previous work as a professional wrestler impacted your work today as a writer?
Yeah.
Voice actor? Yeah? Really?
People don't give me notes because I'll body slam them.
Oh.
I was very shy growing up, even when I was doing wrestling, and that persona allowed me to kind of like shake that off. And you know, when you're competing in front of strangers, there's a very different vibe from like being at a party and just feeling like you can talk to somebody. So I do think that when I got into animation and there's a lot of like meetings and meeting people and introducing yourself, there is a part of me that naturally wanted to be closed off just because I'm shy. So kind of shaking that off, I can attribute that to my time as a wrestler. And just weirdly enough, there's a lot of wrestling fans in animation. So I've been able to make a lot of different friends just through that.
So a little birdie told me that you have a nickname, Silent Killer. During the writing process, I hear you have a habit of just going dead silent, and then when it's time to pitch a joke or even save an episode, you're right there. Is that true?
Who are you talking to?
I have a bird.
Okay. I mean, I've never heard this nickname. It's extremely cool, so I will take it.
Okay.
I think a lot of people, when they enter writers' rooms, are trying to find their voice. And for me, I know I'm not like the pitching 30 jokes a second kind of person. I'm more thoughtful in what I want to say. So a lot of times in the room, I am very quiet or just kind of like kicking things around in my head until I feel like, oh, I got it, you know? And I think early on, that was a worry of mine of like, oh, he's not talking. Is he not receptive, or is he not paying attention, or is he asleep? But no, I think because of that, it kind of allowed this weird thing where when I did say something, it held a little more weight. So yeah, I mean, I've never heard the nickname. Very happy to take it. I will get it tattooed right here.
So as a showrunner, have you faced any challenges, and how do you tend to tackle those challenges?
I think the toughest thing for me about being a showrunner is the time in which I got to do it. When I was on Craig, and before that Harvey Beaks, and just various other things that I've been able to do, they were all pre-pandemic. So I got to spend a lot of time with my crews and really get to know them and hang out. And that was one of the things about Craig, you know, as you mentioned, when we would like play video games and stuff, I got to have a lot of FaceTime with that group, and I got to care about that crew a lot. And when we were doing my current show, it's all been through pandemic, so it's all been kind of virtual. So it's tough to lead a crew and not be able to have that FaceTime all the time, or to only see each other pretty much virtually outside of maybe 3 appearances together. I hope they know that I was always rooting for them as like a wonderful team, because they are special, and I'm so proud of our show.
So having those personal experiences with your crew, do you feel as if obviously it's something that works for you, but does it help them in the work that they do too?
Totally. I think that in this industry, there's a lot, as we talked about earlier, there's a lot of, am I the right person for the job? And I think that having that kind of personable interaction with your boss or showrunner, you know, only serves so much more when it's like, you know, they're behind you, they're supporting you. And at the end of the day, we're making a show that I never thought I would be in the position to make, and I obviously can't do that alone. So to have all these people who are just so talented helping me make this thing that we're all gonna like present to the world and hopefully like everyone's gonna love is just a really cool experience. So I wanted them all to know like I'm so grateful for their time and their experience in making the show.
What does it feel like to have people believe in the stories that you want to tell, and have people look at you and feel as if I want to work with Jeff?
Honestly, it's surprising, because I think back to 8 years ago, I was living in Detroit, working at Target as a security guard.
Wow.
And now I'm like running a thing at Marvel, an animated series for one of the biggest superheroes on the planet.
Yeah.
And to have like a team that's like, these scripts are amazing. I can't wait to work on this. I can't wait for people to see it. Like, it means the world. It shows that like all the time I spent like reading scripts at home in my room at my mom's house and like teaching myself how to write was worth it, because now I'm like out here doing this thing, and like I have this very supportive team behind me, and you know, it's a wonderful feeling, honestly.
In regards to executives, I'm sure you've worked with a ton of them. Do you have like an ideal or perfect, so to speak, executive that you would think works for you?
I've been very fortunate to work with like a lot of executives that have kind of championed what we're doing. When I was at Cartoon Network, we had Conrad Montgomery, who was incredible. He believed in everything we were doing on Craig when we wanted to do stuff with Witches of the Creek, who are lesbian characters. There was no like sugarcoating it. We know that like if you aren't direct and overt in things, people are like, oh, they're just friends. That they mean girlfriend, like friend who's a girl. And like we didn't want to do that. Right. We wanted to be very blunt with things, and when there was pushback sometimes from the network, Conrad would get behind us, or he'd fight for us. And I luckily have the same thing at Marvel now, where I'm working with Brad Winderbaum and Dana Vasquez-Eberhardt, who are just incredible champions of the show. They love what we're doing. They tell me every time we show them something, they're like, this show is amazing. We couldn't be happier with it. And that means a lot, especially doing something at Marvel where I'm such a big proponent of just everything they're doing, growing up as a fan. And for me, the bar is really high over there. So to hear that from my execs over there, that they love the show and they're excited for it, just makes me all the more excited to get out into the world.
Do you ever feel pressure on some of the projects you've worked on or like that you were probably fans of as a kid?
Oh yeah. You know, I always want to do right by the characters.
Right.
And growing up watching Spider-Man the animated series in the 90s and being a huge fan of that, watching Spectacular Spider-Man, being a massive fan of that, there's a part of you that always wants to make sure that you're delivering for everyone that's a fan of those series. And for me, it's like knowing that someone's going to grow up with this as their Spider-Man just raises the bar even more. I always want to make sure that I'm telling the best story I can tell, regardless of the character, but I think the bar is especially high, knowing that there's 30 Spider-Man series.
And millions and bajillions of fans.
Exactly. And making sure that this is one that like people regard highly.
So I have one last question for you that I love to ask my guests. What change would you like to see in animation in the next few years?
There's a lot. Pay? No.
Most importantly.
Yes. But this is going to sound like such a basic answer because at a certain level it is, but just more diversity in these spaces. I loved working on Craig of the Creek, and I loved working at Cartoon Network. Cartoon Network had been around for 25 years, 30 years. I was the first Black head writer at Cartoon Network.
Wow.
And the fact that it took 30 years for that is outrageous.
Yeah, I can.
And I'm sure there's probably the same in other studios.
Yeah.
So as we continue to grow as an industry and as more people of color enter animation and find out like this is an avenue, you know, there's more opportunities for everybody to be able to do the things that we do. And I think that hopefully, you know, 30 years from now, I won't have to be the first anything. You know, everyone will have already done all these things. So
Yeah.
that's my hope.
So Jeff, would you like to play a game with me?
I would love to play a game
Yes,
with you.
let's play a game. We're gonna play a game called Animationary. It's basically Pictionary with a twist. So we're gonna pull a name out of this hat, and then we're gonna draw the character. We're gonna each take a turn. I have to guess the character, and then you have to guess my character.
Okay, this is going to be hard for you because I can't draw.
It's gonna be even harder for you because I also can't draw.
All right. Cool. Got it. This is already bad. Yeah, I'm regretting everything now.
I soon will feel the same pain.
All right. I'm sorry. There you go.
It's definitely a character
Yep,
that I may have seen before.
I think so.
The candle stick from Beauty and the Beast.
No.
Okay, that was
Close.
It's like an ice cream head. Okay, so my second guess is gonna be Squidward.
No.
Okay.
But close.
Is it really?
I mean, tangentially.
Finn from Adventure Time?
No. I'm sorry.
Who is it?
This is everyone's favorite boy genius, Jimmy Neutron.
That was actually a really good. I'm gonna pick one.
I believe in you.
Thank you. Okay. Well, that's not how I wanted it to look, but it's
sure it's
close
great.
enough. Okay, are you ready?
Ready.
Here he is.
Oh, that's Squidward.
Yeah, it wasn't fair at all.
No, it's, yeah, no.
It wasn't fair at all.
Yeah.
It wasn't fair.
Take this one. All right, we'll try.
Oh, you're switching colors.
Yeah, I've grown a lot in the last round.
Wow. So you are an artist after all.
Yeah, okay, we got this. We're great.
All right.
And here we go.
Oh,
Who could that be?
Spider-Man? Oh, it's Miles?
You got it.
Let's go. Miles Morales. Okay, should we do a bonus round to see who really takes it home?
I think we have to.
Oh no. Oh no. He looks awful. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Bluey.
No, but in the realm of
Oh, it's Courage the Cowardly Dog.
close.
Oh, it's not.
Close.
Okay, it's almost there.
Same network.
We're getting there. This is Chowder.
No, it is my poor attempt of making Jake.
Oh, from Adventure Time?
Yes, that's what I said. It's in the realm. I'm so sorry.
No, this is beautiful. Should we accept a tie?
Yeah, I think we could accept a tie. All right,
We're both
choose.
great artists. You did it.
Yes, thank you. Oh, today is a special day. I'm here with none other than voice actress, but also a very, very, very good friend of mine, Kendall Bird.
Hey.
Welcome.
Hey, everyone. Hey, thanks. Happy to be here.
So, Kendall, your start as an actress.
Yeah.
You were a theater kid, am I right?
Yes, yeah. I originally did theater. My mom got me in the musical theater when I was like 5, 6 years old. So my first musical was Annie, and then
Wow.
started and continued from there.
That
Yeah.
is so awesome. Were you in the main cast or you were
I was just
ensemble?
orphan number 5, but a great orphan at that. Yeah, I was part of the chorus. It's a hard not life, you know, maybe all that stuff. They actually had me audition for Molly, but I was
wow.
5 and was not processing the concept of theater because my mom took me at first, and so I was like, why am I reading these sides? I just came to sing happy birthday. and then so then they put me in the chorus, which was correct, but yeah, that's how I started.
But I also hear that your dad introduced you to STEM, is that correct?
Yes, well, you'll be doing your research. That's cool. I also was a STEM kid growing up, which is science, tech, engineering, and math. So when I was like doing Annie at the age of 5, also my first like science fair that I did was at age 6.
Wow.
With my dad, and STEM was always kind of my first love too. So growing up, I was trying to figure out ways to kind of combine my passion of engineering and tech also with like performance and entertainment too.
What really brought you over to acting full time then?
It was when I got into my college's sketch comedy group and improv team called Boy Meets Tractor, and I went to a school called Swarthmore College, which was all the way outside of Philadelphia. That was kind of like for 4 years to be able to make people laugh through improv and to make, you know, like political sketches and sketches that shine light on different commentaries was so much fun to do with just like a core group of people all 4 years. So while studying computer science, I, engaged and pursued in that, and then also did theater and Shakespeare and all of that stuff every semester. So then when I exited college, I was like, oh yeah, I definitely want to come out to LA and kind of pursue that entertainment and tech. But my first job out of college was a software engineer at BuzzFeed, but I chose BuzzFeed because they offered me a position to come out to their LA office where they were like, you'll be engineering, but you'll be able to be in the same office as like Quenta, who was still there at the time, and the Try Guys, and be like sitting right next to them and see how like they make videos and produce over there, as well as supporting them through like tech and engineering.
With almost everything you do, it kind of works in tandem with each other.
Yeah, for sure. I always am trying to find ways to combine my passions and loves with each other, because I think a key thing that sometimes people tell you when you're coming up is that like, oh, you gotta find a path and find one thing that you're good at and then like stick to that. But I'm like, there's so many people who are good at so many different things, and there are definitely ways where you can merge and combine all of your interests and passions.
So we're gonna jump into your voice acting, because you do a lot of scratch audio for a lot of the shows you've worked on, correct?
Yes, yeah. I at DreamWorks worked on Fast and Furious Spy Racers, as well as the show called Dragon's Rescue Riders, and also the show called Jurassic World Camp Cretaceous. So working at DreamWorks was my first entrance into animation and was so much fun. And on those shows, I was able to kind of do scratch and get into VO and all of that stuff. And then I'm at Netflix Animation now, and I am a script coordinator and on the writing team there. But I'm like, do a lot of scratch there as well. So kind of when I started at Netflix, I started thinking about VO more seriously, and was very fortunate that my team was so supportive in that kind of vision and goal of mine. And so they threw me in and have allowed me to do scratch as the lead character for our show, and as well as all these other teams at Netflix now know that I do VO and are like, hey, can you give us a voice for this project and this thing?
That's so awesome.
So they kind of have really supported and fueled that kind of desire to do VO while also still working on the writing side and all that too. I'm working on a Roald Dahl IP at Netflix, so the Roald Dahl kind of base is based in Britain and English, so we do a handful of British accents on our show for Scratch, so developing a British accent has been cool. Also, specifically boys, I have so much fun doing.
So for viewers out there that actually don't really know what Scratch audio is, can you explain that to them?
Scratch is temporary audio. It's when you're in kind of the phase of production before either you've casted all of your actors or you need audio for the board artist to work on, and it's kind of like a placeholder audio.
So you're also in a game known as Genshin Impact.
Yes.
Which, obviously we've talked about because I'm a big fan of it.
Yep.
But you played a female role in Genshin.
Yes.
Is there a drastic difference for you there?
Yeah. That's a good question. And Genshin's a really cool example because I have been brought back twice now on Genshin. And the first time I did Genshin was in the summer of last year, and it was when I was like 3-4 months in to my professional VO journey. Genshin and these JRPGs, they're more based in the anime-esque style versus like Call of Duty, where it's like very guttural and grounded. Coming into Genshin, it's interesting because I listened to the performances of my first characters I did, and then because I was so new, I was like, oh, I was definitely still learning of like how to do different styles of video game acting.
Yeah.
And so when I came back and was able to do Faranak, which is Kave's mom, I came into that session of like just a more experienced actor and kind of studying more anime performances and JRPG performances and being like, oh, cool, I have a better sense of like how I need to change kind of just like my vocal cords and inflect and all of that to make it more of a still grounded and realistic performance, but grounded in that world and all of that. And it is different. Like I'm definitely using sometimes when I go up higher for women voices, like more head voice and things like that, versus like boys are down here and rasp and all of that stuff. So it is a different technique and all of that, but I'm like so happy with that performance and also just my growth over the past year of like figuring out just the VO landscape as well as just the different genres within VO.
Was that hard to adapt to at first? By the way, you did such a wonderful job.
Oh,
and
thanks.
If anyone, I got your back. You know me.
Oh, thanks. I was first really nervous because I know Kave's mom is like a hot topic within the Genshin community.
Yeah.
I had no idea. And so I was nervous. I was nervous about my performance and if people were going to accept it. But it was nothing but positive reception and well wishes from fans. I have received so many messages online of just like how much they loved my voice and things like that, which was actually really, really cool to hear because as someone starting off and as also someone as being a person of color kind of in this industry, I was kind of afraid starting off to enter kind of the anime-esque JRPG space because I'm like, is my voice too modern or whatever for this kind of anime-esque space? And I still, like, again, I'm like only a year and a few months in, so to get the reception I did and everyone being like, we love your take on her and your voice, I was like, cool, maybe I do fit and belong in this space too. So
you definitely do. What do you think creators or voice directors could do to make it feel more inclusive?
I think just really doing the work and research of when casting, making sure you're casting authentically, especially if the role calls for that. Also, I think AJ Becko's another voice actor on Twitter made a video about this a few months ago, and he pointed out something nice of kind of when we talk about inclusion and authenticity for casting directors and voice directors, seeking out people who are historically unrepresented for auditions and opportunity, letting them get a chance to read. That's so key of like bringing in new talent because lots of the established talent, especially from 20 years ago, is not necessarily diverse. So finding new talent, I'm only here and was able to do as much as I did in the past year because of casting directors and voice directors who took a chance on me. And so one of my first agents, she pitched me for a huge project my first month in.
Wow.
And those casting directors and people accepted me and took me in too for this huge project, and I would not be here or like have had the success and opportunities I've had my first year in VO if it wasn't for people like them taking a chance on me.
So can you share what it's like to be a thespian, going from like a stage to being in a booth?
Everyone will say, in terms of voice acting, at the end of the day, voice acting is acting. And so your voice and you are enough when you're in the booth too. That's also, I think, a big misconception is you have to be able to do 55 wacky, goofy voices, like Reddit for Looney Tunes and all that. And there are, of course, amazing voice actors who can do all of that, but you and your voice is enough as long as you can sell a character and act and all of that. So kind of having that foundation and base in theater I thought was extremely helpful when I came into VO and voice acting. In the booth, as long as you stay on mic, you can actually be as expressive as you want. And I am very, as you probably saw from this interview already, as how much I move my hands. I'm very expressive in the booth too, while doing all of my characters.
Of all the characters you've played, what has been your most challenging?
There's lots of accent work that can go into VO and into this industry. I had to do a huge accented role, and I did some dialect coaching right before that, just to make sure. It was one of my first projects too. So I just wanted to make sure I did it correctly and authentically and well too, because I'm like, these are like the first industry professionals who are gonna see me perform and do voice work. So I think that was probably one of the most challenging projects, as well as also rewarding and fulfilling too.
From the perspective of like someone breaking in, how does it feel to like have fans?
Oh my gosh, I don't even know if I fully have fans yet though. I'm like, oh thanks, listen. Yeah, no, it's cool to have like, again, fans of Genshin and Rainbow High, and people message me and say they like my performance and like my character. That's always something that's new, as I'm still a year in. But cool to have. I love people and just talking to people and interacting with folks. So it's so cool to hear people's stories and messages and how characters impact and affect them. And that's just really dope too. So it's cool, it's cool.
So my last question for you today. What changes would you like to see in the voice acting industry or the acting industry on a whole?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. I mean, just continued work. We're just beginning work in like authenticity and diversity. I think it really got started like pandemic, so it is still very new where folks are able to like authentically play characters like based on them. Like, it's a new concept of just like authentically casting and finding people. So I think just continued work in there. And I would love to see just more like people of color in animation, anime, like also more people of color leadership, like directors, casting directors, all of that jazz. Go into life, into the world, and act like it's impossible to fail. The worst people can do is say no, so go and put yourself out there. Pursue all of your passions, figure out ways to combine them, and just have fun.
Any final words? Any last?
The only other thing is Chicago's the best city in the world. I told Shakira I would say that to camera. Chicago represent, Chicago stand up.
Jersey stand up, 201 all day.
Hey, 773, Chicago all day. You already know. Sorry, please, you can carry on now.
Do you want to play a game?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So we're going to be playing Hostess with the quotesis, where we get thrown a series of quotes, and we have to basically figure out which line either came from an animated show or an animated movie. Person with the most points wins. Are you ready?
Let's do it. Shrek!
Okay, 1 point for Chicago.
Thank you, Shrek.
One point for Chicago.
Anastasia?
Moana.
Wreck-It Ralph? Wreck-It Ralph? Is it Wreck-It Ralph? Bam. Why would they? I know this. Oh, jeez.
Why would I know this?
Why would they change math?
Ed, Ed, and Eddie.
Atlantis?
Danny Phantom.
Kung Fu Panda? Oh, yes. That's good. That was good.
Okay.
Is it freaking Meet the Robinsons?
Atlantis?
Robots.
Wow. Yo, you could have had that one.
Yes! Oh my gosh. Oh, Lilo and Stitch. Dang it.
That does sound like Lilo and Stitch.
Oh my gosh, Emperor's New Groove? What the heck? That's Mushu. That's when Mulan's firing the cannon. Okay, yeah, Emperor's New Groove, but
She got it. Oh, that's SpongeBob.
Oh, SpongeBob, that was good. Inside Out, but
Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends?
oh, that's good.
Sounds like a kid would say that.
A Fairly Odd Parents?
Oh, it's Courage the Cowardly Dog.
Whoa! Codename Kids Next Door?
The Aristocats?
Dexter's Lab? Oh! Electric
Oh.
Perjury!
That makes sense.
That's good. Let's do the last one.
It's not Rocket Power.
Craig of the Creek.
My Dad the Bounty Hunter.
Oh, dang, that's it! That's it! We got a bonus! Bonus! Time! Aladdin?
Oh, wow! Good job! That was good. That was good. Yeah, Kendall!
1, 2, 3, 4.
No, never seen violence before. I doubt it'll last very long if you act like that. You made your choice. Victims of a German bully. Attention's a building. I'll step back if I'm gonna crack my nugget eye. Everything you got. Kill me with a warning shot. Ignored every warning sign. Reminiscing, criticize. They've only gone one way. Don't think real hard and pray. When I got to the top, when I say we've had enough. You had your moment of glory. You spoiled it. I wish you would see how good things could be. You would decide to open your eyes, but you're still believing the lie. Maybe I'm not worse, but I'm trying. You push me back when you're fighting. So sick of your brainwashing. Plug up my ears with kind of ladder. No matter what you're missing, I'll give you my time. Need your permission, twisted, warping, lost control. I hate your condescending role. Tell me, I am so much better than me. When I lost the empathy that you instilled in me. Just to get ignored. But you dropped the buffalo, and he said that I was told. You will see, I got lost, I got the best. You had your moment of glory, you spoiled it. I wish you would see how good things